Hello again, it's your old friend Theta, the Monotone Messiah. Today, we're going to be talking about scrims. Let's get one thing straight. Scrims are practices. The results don't mean nearly as much as you probably think they do, and you shouldn't waste energy worrying about whether you win or lose one. What matters above all else is whether you learn something that will help you win real matches. It's only a true loss if you don't gain anything from the experience. My team has lost scrims to teams and then beat the hell out of those teams in real matches. In some ways, there's a metagame around this whole dynamic because teams sometimes become overconfident after winning a scrim, and that overconfidence hurts them in actual competition. Part of the reason I'm laying all this out is I'm seeing a massive uptick in new players acting like complete lunatics about what happens in scrims, and it makes me physically cringe. I'm starting to see things like teams posting scrim results on social media, which I can't help but laugh at, or even worse, I've heard new players say things like they, quote, made their name by beating a more experienced team in a scrim. You can't make this stuff up. No competitor worth their salt is going to care what you did or didn't do in a scrim, because they understand that scrims are just practice reps. This may blow your mind, but the best teams are often fine with losing a scrim as long as they stress tested their tactics, and you should adopt that mindset as well if you want to get better. Overall, act like you've been there, even if you haven't. A good rule of thumb is to simply not talk about scrims outside of the team. Nobody cares anyway, so you're doing us all a favor by keeping it to discussions amongst your teammates. All that being said, it is important to practice in a way that will inform your league matches. You should be experimenting and trying things out, but you shouldn't throw your practice time away by goofing off the whole time. If something does or doesn't work, that is valuable feedback, and you should be taking mental notes of everything you do to make the most of the scrim. You play how you practice, so take your scrims seriously. Something else I get asked about a lot is scrimcasts. Many new teams are worried about footage of their strats making it into the public eye, but let me reassure you, nobody cares about your team's strats, period. You should be more concerned with testing out your strats and figuring out how to win. A far more useful way to think about all this is to assume that everyone knows what your strats will be and then work from there. Thinking this way will force you to plan for contingencies and figure out the weaknesses in your tactics. Secrecy has a very limited shelf life, but being able to win even when everyone knows your plans is a bankable skill you can run with for a long, long time. This is what you'll be forced to do if you reach the upper echelons anyway. My team gets casted pretty much every week, so it's assumed that the other team will have studied what we do. Just think about how ridiculous the whole secrecy thing is if we change the context to other sports. Can you imagine a professional football team not having their matches televised, for example? They know everyone is studying them and they have to plan for that. And it only gets harder as you get better because everyone wants to take out the top dogs in any competitive game, which means the top dogs get studied more than anybody else, but they still have to win. Remember that next time you think you need to conceal what you're doing from everybody. This is all in the context of actual matches, though. The bigger question, which is more germane to this particular video, is should you cast your scrims? My personal philosophy when it comes to scrims is that I like to either not have a cast or only do it privately and then share the footage with the other team. This may sound like a contradiction, but it's only because I want everyone involved to treat it as a practice and not a social event where the public is going to judge them. Whenever a team gets scrimcasted and the stream is public, that will change how the team plays. In most cases, they won't try new things out, and they'll become much more self-conscious since there will be an audience involved. Public scrimcasts can be valuable for newer teams if they don't have experience getting casted at all, since coping with the stress of playing in public is an important skill for competitors. But once you hit the intermediate levels, I think the value of public scrimcasts goes down rapidly. A private cast that you share with the other team is a nice medium because you get footage which both teams can study while also maintaining the practice ethos that is needed for a quality scrim. It also gives any caster teammates you have a chance to get practice reps without getting judged harshly. Something else which players ask me about quite a bit is picking teams to scrim against. Many teams take what I call the meathead approach, where they commit to scrimming only the absolute best teams they can find. For example, my team gets scrim requests from bronze and silver teams all the time, and there's usually good intentions attached to those requests. People say things like, "We know we'll learn a lot by playing you guys," and I believe they do want to learn from us. While I understand this impulse, and there is plenty to learn from more experienced players, this is a bad plan in most cases for both sides. From our side, it's not good because, to be blunt about it, we don't learn much from stomping out new teams. Rushing people who don't know what they're doing isn't informative and is in fact dangerous because you run the risk of letting your ego get too inflated. You can also get away with much sloppier play since the newer players don't know how to counter it, which can trick you into thinking you're playing well. In reality, the other side just isn't good enough to stop even mediocre plays. For the other team, there's not much to be learned either. This branches off from my general philosophy about losing. If you lose and can break down how you lost, then it isn't that much of a loss. You learn something and you can get better from it. But if you get demolished so badly that you can't even pick apart what went wrong, that is a true loss. The skill gap was too wide, and the best conclusion you can pull from an experience like that is, I need more experience to even understand why that went so wrong. This second, much less useful type of loss is what you're going to experience if you're a new team and you decide to scrim an experienced team. I think it can be a valuable experience if the veteran team is okay with taking the time to walk you through each round and explicitly tell you what happened, but most teams don't want to commit to that format. Practice time is valuable, and most good teams want to spend practice time getting better, not teaching. It's fine if you can find a team that is willing to hold your hand like that, but it's unreasonable to set that as your default expectation. On top of all that, you need to be able to do much more than practice playing defensively. One of the biggest problems with playing against much better teams is that you won't have the tools to do anything more than survive against them. But you can't become a winning player or a winning team by surviving alone. Offense is extremely important, and you need to develop offensive tools if you want to win. I made a video called "Don't Just Survive" if you want more specifics on this particular topic. Overall, I've found that it's demoralizing for a new team to go through the meathead process. Nobody likes getting stomped over and over again, and if you aren't learning much, why go through that trouble? You're better off practicing with teams that will help you get better. So what's a new team to do? The answer is you should be scrimming other new teams as much as possible, and then set some kind of marker for scrimming more experienced teams so you can check your progress. For example, one plan you could use is, say you'll do 3 scrims with other bronze teams, then schedule a scrim with a silver or gold team. That way you can spend most of your time refining both offense and defense, and then test how far you've come against a better team after you've done that. The general framework you want to stick with is to play against people of a similar skill level as often as possible, and then occasionally play against teams ranked way above you. You should be using the similar teams as a test bed, a place to experiment and figure out your best tactics, and then you take those best tactics and use them against the better teams. Finally, I get asked sometimes about how to get a scrim scheduled. That one is easy. Just ask. Pop open Discord, find the captains of the teams you want to scrim, and ask them. If you're really a pro, you'll have a time ready to rock and a squad confirmed for that slot. That way you don't have to waste any energy playing the "when should we do this" game. Once it's scheduled, make sure everyone on your team is clear on the current league rules and understands how the match will progress based on those rules. A particular point of contention I've heard come up on multiple occasions revolves around map picks and bans. You're free to do what you want in scrims, but in league matches, picks and bans don't have to be disclosed until the time of the match. I've seen some heated DMs between new players who think it's unsportsmanlike to not tell the other team ahead of time, and that's flat out wrong. The map pick and ban metagame is another skill you need to develop, so treat them like you would in a real match. Is there anything else about scrims you'd like to know? Drop a comment below, or even better, drop into my Discord, the Cult of Theta. Until next time, this is Theta, signing off.